Hello everyone, my name is Steven with a V, or as some of you like to call me, Steven, and welcome to Storytime. Today we're going to be reading some malicious compliance stories, tales where following the rules lead to some just desserts. And let me just say, if you're not already subscribed to Storytime, please consider doing so. But with that being said, let's sit back, relax, and listen to some captivating Reddit stories. It's your responsibility to know your work schedule. About 15 years ago, when I was in my last year of college, I was working at a pay-by-the-hour daycare. Although this was just a typical college job for me, I still did my best and made sure to show up on time, work the station I was supposed to work, and do my best at whatever task I was supposed to do. Imagine my surprise when I got a call on my day off asking where I was and why I wasn't coming in. Well, I explained to them, it's my day off, I do not work today. That is when I was informed that my name is on the schedule and this would be treated as a no-call, no-show. That means a disciplinary write-up. The rest of the night was spent worrying about not going to work and wondering how I messed up so badly. I come into work on my next shift where the manager and assistant manager proceed to give me their write-up. They condescendingly showed me the schedule like they are going to show me how to read it when I noticed that the person who normally works the shift I missed had their name crossed out and my name put in their place. I pointed this out to them and they explained that on the morning that I missed my afternoon shift, the original person called out and I was slated to replace her. They did not call me to let me know, or I would have happily come in for the extra cash. Naturally, I was a bit hesitant to write a sign-up because they changed my shift and didn't tell me. At this information, the manager simply said, "It's your responsibility to know your work schedule, even if you change it the day of and don't call me?" I could see the wheels turning in their head when they doubled down and said, "Yes, you are an adult. This is the real world and you are expected to know when you are scheduled to work. You should have called to double-check your schedule." So, malicious compliance time. There were 3 main shifts at this daycare: morning, afternoon, and evening. I called before every single shift of every single day. I called on days that I was supposed to work and on days that I wasn't. After all, as a responsible adult, it was my responsibility to make sure my schedule didn't change, right? "Hi, this is OP. I am just calling to double check if I'm on the schedule for next shift here. My copy says insert next time I'm supposed to work." It didn't take long, although longer than I thought it should, for them to call me again into the office and tell me that they would call me from now on should the schedule change. Sometimes I wonder what happened to them, until I remember I don't give a freak. Edit: a lot of you were asking if they removed the write-up when they realized they were wrong. No, they didn't. Which is why when I gave my 2 weeks notice, I didn't exactly leave gracefully. Oh boy, I understand working at a daycare requires you to figure out kids' needs and wants, but I didn't know it goes as far as you needing true psychic ability to be able to visualize in your mind when they scratch somebody else's name off and write yours in and didn't ever tell you that you were even supposed to work then. And then OP clarifies that they didn't even remove the write-up when they told them they didn't even notify them. So yeah, I wouldn't leave gracefully either. "Don't interrupt me while I'm on the phone." So I was working at a locally owned cell phone repair store, and although I was the only person at this location who had any knowledge of phones, the owner's sister had been given the title of manager. A little background on the owner's sister. Let's call her Meg. She was 37 at the time and had never moved out of her parents' house. I had talked to her about this before, and it goes way beyond what you might be thinking. She had never done her own laundry. She didn't know how to cook. She had only just got her license to drive a couple years prior. The idea of moving out stressed her out because she didn't know how bills worked or who to call if she got hurt. You get the idea, right? She had been fired from every job she'd ever have for being on her phone at work. Despite being a manager at a cell phone repair store, she could not tell an iPhone 4 from an iPhone 8. This woman made rocks look smart. Anyways, on to the malicious compliance. She often made mistakes when giving people quotes or information on the phone, and I would do my best to quietly give her the correct info. Sometimes she was grateful for the help, and other times she would shush me. Well, one day it was really bad and she kept giving out inaccurate information, which was costing us repairs because people would drive to the store and I would give them the actual price, which was different than what they had heard on the phone. They assumed bait and switch, but really it was just ignorance on Meg's part. I admit I was probably a little frustrated with her, and that may have come across in my tone despite how patient I was trying to be. I corrected her once again on the info she was giving over the phone, and she snapped at me to never interrupt her again. About half an hour later, she got a phone call on her cell phone. She looked confused, but that was nothing new. I wasn't concerned until I saw her rummaging through her purse while talking to this person. She pulled out her social security card and gave them the number. I tried to get her attention, but she just glared daggers at me, so I sat back down and shut up. This phone call lasted close to half an hour. She gave them her current and past addresses, her credit card number, her password, her PIN. She spelled out her name for them. It's very long and very Greek. And even gave them her home phone number. I quietly sat through all of this and just kept working on the phone I was repairing. When she finally got off the phone, she turns to me and says, "That was the weirdest phone call. AT&T needed to verify my information." I said to her, "Why is that weird?" She said, "Well, I have T-Mobile." My jaw dropped. Like, I knew she was stupid, but this was the moment I really understood that. I then told her she needed to call her brother because her identity had just been given away on a silver platter. Now crying, she says to me, "He's going to be so upset. My identity has already been stolen twice this year." Oh my gosh. This person might be the recipient of the most sheltered person award that I am now here to hand out. Congratulations, manager of cell phone repair shop lady. I wouldn't toss those. A few years ago, before I moved my way up into engineering, I was a machinist. One of the most common tools of the trade are calipers. I had purchased a fairly nice pair of digital calipers since they were my main tools aside from the more accurate $100,000 equipment. The company paid for all the calibration needs for everything, even if they were your own personal equipment. They would not pay for personal equipment that was broken due to negligence, which is completely fair. We have this guy that always has an attitude, no matter what. He's always complaining about something. He likes to go to each department that his parts are incoming from and check the parts to make sure they are to his liking. I didn't run his parts too often, but when I did, he was making his way towards me like clockwork 3 times a day. Freaking annoying. When he did, he would pick up my personally owned calipers and use them. Now I didn't mind because I didn't want to give him another thing to complain about until he started tossing the calipers down. First time I seen him do it, they bounced on my bench a bit. I flat out told him, "Don't toss those around, they are expensive and they're my personal calipers." He walks away, spouting something off under his breath. He did it a second time. I reminded him that they were my personal set and if he was going to be using them, he needed to respect them. "It won't hurt them, they aren't meant for accuracy." Sure enough, the third time is a charm. He came over being nosy and tossed my calipers on my bench after using them. After the third time, I went to the supervisor and had a chat with him about these incidents. He pulled the employee in question in and talked to him. The next morning, I was doing my reference checks on the parts and sure enough, here comes Mr. Attitude marching his way into my department. I tried to quickly grab my calipers up and replace them with my spares, but I didn't get the chance. He picks them up and finishes checking what he needs and tosses them down. At this point, I'm biting my tongue. As he walks away, I pick my calipers up and my screen is messed up and doesn't read out. At this point, I'm fuming, so I take the calipers to my supervisor and told him he did it again and they're broke now. Supervisor tells me that he told Mr. Attitude that he breaks them, he will buy them. Sure enough, a week later, I received a brand new pair of calipers, same ones, ordered by the company and pulled out of Mr. Attitude's check. From that day on, he brought his own calipers whenever he needed to check something. I guess he didn't want to be short $350 again. There's just a quality of basic human decency expressed here that needs to be practiced by most people. Respect others' stuff. I don't care what circumstance, taking somebody else's belongings, especially ones that they expressed belong to them, and treating it with disregard like it's nothing is something that is completely troubling to me. Can't speak directly to the client? Okay. I work at an IT consultancy company doing web development for client companies. For the last week, I've been working solo on a few changes for a website of a small company. I've worked for these guys before and I'm friendly with the guys in their IT team. They're a nice bunch. However, the manager at my company is not so nice. Most people here dislike him. He has this pointless rule that developers should not be communicating with the client directly. Everything should go through him. He's heard of how I've been interacting with this client in the past and tells me it needs to stop. So when I get my next call from main guy at client company, I explain the situation. He laughs. He's met my manager and doesn't like him much either. Together, we want to teach this guy a lesson. So, over the course of the next couple of hours, he calls me at least every 5 minutes. Each time, I forward the call to my manager, who then has to call me back to explain what the client wanted. I can sense the agitation in his voice growing each time. Client guy also sends me a few emails which I immediately forward on to my manager to deal with. Eventually, he snaps and says he gives me permission to answer the calls myself. Me and the client have a good laugh over it. As somebody who has a little bit of background in design, I was always pretty heavily encouraged to communicate directly with the client on what they want and what they need. To me, it kind of sounds like this manager was enforcing this rule just to make it maybe look like he was doing a bunch of work or something like that. In writing. For some background, I am a perfectionist, so I'm very into getting the straight A's and completing my homework before the deadline. This constantly causes a ton of pressure that I put on myself. So much so that I become physically ill after overworking myself. Panic attacks, headaches, fainting, hyperventilating, vomiting, etc. So a few months ago, I show interest in an event called SkillsUSA, which is an event for vocational high school students. Basically, you go and take this test to see if you perform well enough. That's the state test. If you score in the top 2 for state testing, you go to nationals, I believe, where you compete with other high school vocational students from each state in performance. The vocational topic I'm studying is cosmetology, and may I add, I am not very good at the performance aspect of it. But I am the top test taker in my class, scoring 100s on all the tests. Unfortunately, taking the tests causes a lot of stress. And during these tests, I have been known for having several mental breakdowns. Having not considered my hazardous perfectionism volunteering for SkillsUSA, my teacher gave all the students' names to the school's rep to receive paperwork for the event. A few weeks later, after having a panic attack and almost fainting during a standard test, I reconsidered what I had signed up for. I honestly didn't think I could handle the testing phase without causing harm to myself, and even if I did finish the test and manage to pass, there was no way I'd mentally survive the performance test afterwards. Thank God I had realized this earlier, because had I not, I would have to go to this event. This is where the malicious compliance comes into play. I had yet to tell my vocational teacher that I didn't think it was healthy for me to participate in SkillsUSA. So as of then, I was still considered showing interest in SkillsUSA. Then there was an announcement to the school. Any students participating in SkillsUSA, please report to the cafeteria to receive your permission slips. So yeah, I wasn't going to that. No way I'm getting a permission slip to an event I already decided I'm not participating in. Cue the next week. I go into my cosmetology classroom and talk to my very understanding teacher about my well-being concerns if I participate and how I made sure not to take a permission slip. She was very understanding and reassured me she'd tell the school rep that I wasn't going. Immediately, I felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders after dealing with that whole ordeal. Come the next week, my teacher wanted to talk to the school rep about taking me out of SkillsUSA. According to what my teacher told me, this is how the conversation went. My student says she doesn't think she can handle participating in SkillsUSA, so she's opting out. She can't. We already paid the $50 for her to go. it's not a good idea for her to go. She could get extremely sick while taking the test. Sorry, she's going. She signed up and it's already paid for. Anyone who received the permission slip has to go. If she doesn't want to go just because, she can pay the school the $50. And that's when my teacher came back to me with what the rep said. Well, the rep said it. If I got the permission slip, I had to pay the $50. Good thing I skipped that school meeting and never got the permission slip. Basically, the school prepaid for everyone who offered to go. They didn't wait for a final head count and to see who went to the school meeting. My teacher went back to the rep that day. My student isn't paying the $50. She has to. She already signed up. No, she didn't. She showed interest in the event and you went ahead assuming she was participating. She didn't confirm going nor receive the permission slip. At this point, the rep realized her mistake and that she just lost $50 for the school. Sorry if this wasn't super malicious compliancy, but I really wanted to share this. I can't believe the rep went ahead and prepaid for every student she assumed was going. Measure twice, cut once. First off, I'm incredibly sorry to hear about all the issues that OP has when it comes to test taking and that whole perfectionism issue. Second off, that's a huge error for that rep to make because that could expand to not just $50, but a lot more money, especially for the people that didn't even go to the meetings. Send me all the emails you sent to our clients over the past 2 years. Okay. So, I work part-time as a legal counsel in a management consulting company. A colleague of mine screwed up and never responded to an official client inquiry, so the boss is ticked off. He asks me specifically to archive and send him all the emails with legal responses and advice I've sent to our clients over the past 2 years. While I'm not responsible for this mess, I am 99% sure that he asks that of me because I am the youngest in there. Here's the catch. Almost 95% of my responses go through my project managers. I send the legal response to the project manager and he is responsible to communicate it correctly to the client. So I specifically ask, you want all my emails directly to the clients, right? He says yes. So, out of 2,719 emails, only 98 were from me directly to our clients. So, in the official meeting where we are all present, I hand them over and tell them, good luck getting those emails from the project managers. His face was priceless. For everything else, I guess there is MasterCard or something. When you're in a position that high up, you need to know exactly what you're asking for, so the responsibility here definitely falls on the boss's arms for not being aware at all of the actual process that these people undergo. Hopefully he did have fun tracking all these emails down. And that's all the time we have for Storytime today. Thank you so much for listening to the Storytime channel. If you like what you heard, please consider subscribing to the Storytime channel and leave any feedback you can in the comments below as I continue to develop this delivery of these stories to all you lovely people. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.